So I think if maybe the kid poops or a turd falls out of their pants, they could click that and then they could actually see the poop falling out of their kid. Maybe there's other use cases, but for some odd reason, those are the things that come to mind when I think about that. Love them or hate them, DJI is probably the best when it comes to keeping their cameras upgraded, and the DJI Action 5 Pro is no exception. Last week we saw their third firmware update for this camera, and if you're counting, that's one update every single month that we're seeing out of DJI. To someone that's not in the industry, you may say that just proves that this camera has problems. Oh no, my friend, that's actually quite the opposite. If we take, for example, GoPro, they seem to learn about problems and completely ignore them, very rarely putting out firmware updates. And then you have the very evil Insta360. What they try to do is, instead of pushing firmware updates, they just make a new camera and sell it to you again less than 6 months later. So for those reasons and many more, I really do like DJI, and I appreciate the fact that they listen to the public. Not only do they listen, they actually put it in the laps of their engineers, and they provide us with firmware updates pretty much every month now. So today we're going to walk through this third update to the DJI Action 5 Pro and talk about some of the features and upgrades that they're providing to us for free once again. Let's take a look at the firmware notes to see what they've added. So first and foremost, we see an upgrade to the Super Night mode. The Super Night mode is now available in 4K 60. Prior to this, we were capped at 4K 30. Now, if you're interested in that, more on that after this segment, where I actually do some comparisons with video of 4K 30 and 4K 60. The other thing they added was USB-C 4K video out. And this simply means that now you can use that USB-C port to push video, let's say, to an external monitor if you're someone that likes to look at your footage on something like a monitor when you're shooting. Interestingly, they've also added some settings for some hardware that we don't have yet, and that's for the FOV boost lens system. Now, apparently that's going to be some type of lens that's probably going to screw onto the DJI Action 5 Pro, and it's going to give us a super wide view. Now, I'm not someone that really likes wide camera shots from an action camera, and that's only because it introduces a lot of fisheye effect. Now, if this has something that reduces it, I might be interested, but I don't think I want to shoot that wide with an action camera, especially if it's going to have that fisheye. However, they also announced that you can sign up right now to be one of the first to get the FOV boost lens. So if that's something that interests you, definitely head over to DJI and check it out. The other thing they've added is more of a quality of life type thing, where you can now set the pre-record length to 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Above and beyond some minor bug fixes, we also saw an improvement in the stabilization performance for vehicle mounting shooting scenarios, reducing impact of the vehicle acceleration on the stabilization. So I guess apparently there were some issues with the car in motion and possibly the EIS system. From what I understand, they've now smoothed that out, as well as the ability to kind of make the algorithm be less jarring if you hit something like a pothole or something like that. So overall, just another improvement to the electronic internal stabilization system. But I think the biggest update, at least in this one, is the Super Night mode. So with that, let's check out some of the footage. Okay, so we didn't see the massive upgrade that we did last time, where DJI decided to take this thing from a lower bitrate to a higher bitrate camera. But what we did see is a pretty cool advancement in their Super Night mode. Being able to shoot in 60 frames per second is not only going to produce, in my opinion, a better looking video, but it's also going to help the internal electronic stabilization, or the EIS. You see, EIS will have more data or more frames to have reference points in order to stabilize the footage. One of the big issues in the action camera world is when you're using EIS, we always get those micro jitters on most cameras. And that's typically because we're following the 180-degree rule, or we're afraid to shoot in higher frame rates or in higher speeds. So in my opinion, having the ability to move this into 60 frames per second is a huge win, especially if you're someone that shoots a lot in low light or intends to shoot in very, very dark situations. Most of the other updates were more quality of life. I mean, yeah, it's cool. We can now use USB-C display and it will work, which I think is cool, especially if you're using any type of monitoring software or just a monitor itself to check on things like color, exposure, and framing. I think this is a huge win, but it's not anything that is going to blow my hair back. But one of the other things I appreciate DJI is they actually are looking at some of these smaller segments of people that use some of their features. For example, pre-roll. I don't know if a lot of you use pre-roll, but I certainly do because I'm a fisherman. Now, as a fisherman, I would only do like 30 seconds or a minute, because all I'm really concerned is if I hook up, being able to click that button, and in theory, it would then film me hooking up if everything goes right, which it rarely does. But there's a use case for me. I don't know who else used this. I don't have kids. Now I see kids at the park and their parents, and apparently it's pretty funny, like if a kid poops himself or something. So I think if maybe the kid poops or a turd falls out of their pants, they could click that and then they could actually see the poop falling out of their kid. Maybe there's other use cases, but for some odd reasons, those are the things that come to mind when I think about that. Regardless, I think what it proves is the fact that even though they know not a lot of people use that feature, they're still improving it. The same thing goes with some of their vehicle mounted stabilization. I don't think there's going to be much you can do without a gimbal to prevent everything if you're doing off-roading. But again, just shows to you that DJI isn't just worried about catering to the masses. They're actually taking a holistic approach and saying there is a whole bunch of different types of people that do a whole bunch of different things that use our cameras in a whole bunch of different ways. So again, I think it just builds confidence in me and DJI that they are very aware, they're very cognizant, and they're willing to upgrade their camera. And they're not really saying, oh man, we messed up. They're just saying, yep, thanks for telling us, we're going to fix it. So for that reason, I think they're probably the best action camera company on the market. I'm not saying they have the best image. I'm not even saying it's the best camera, but having a company that actually is going to stand behind it and continue to give us upgrades, not only for this year, but throughout most of its life cycle. I mean, we're still seeing some upgrades to the Action 3. So if that gives you any idea of the type of company that DJI is, and if you're looking for a camera that you don't just have to keep rebuying every 6 months, well, DJI might be right for you. So if you're listening, DJI, I totally appreciate it. I totally see it. And thank you so much once again. Anyways, I hope you found value in this. Please consider liking and subscribing. My name's Hill Phantom. I'll see you next time.